Hi, Nicole. I'm Carolyn, first Here's What Happened on Carolyn Talks podcast. Thank you so much for joining us today. I really enjoyed the show. It's not what I was expecting at all. And so for my question for you is I'm gonna ask you to say 5 words that you would use to describe Sasha and the show. Like for me, the 5 words I would use to describe the show are spiral or spiraling, identity, insecure, insecurity, betrayal, and also forgiveness, like especially forgiveness of oneself. So there's a lot of themes that run throughout this show, and you tackle it from a female perspective, but also from a biracial female perspective and a feminine, a sexually free female perspective. So for you, what 5 words would you use to describe mood, and why would you use those words?
Okay, those 5 words you used, by the way, were brilliant. So I would go with sassy, because I think she's got a lot of sass, a lot of energy. I would go with trauma, because she is, or traumatic, because she is running from this traumatic past that she's kind of unaware of how much it's crowded her whole life, and she frames it totally differently until you sort of find out across the series. I think she's funny. She is super cutting, funny, witty. I think accidentally kind of funny. I think she's lost. I think that she, in a similar way to, having a bit of an identity crisis, she doesn't really know who she is. And then the 5th word I would use would be musical. The show is full of music, and it's a way for her to kind of connect with an audience and speak directly to an audience.
Great, thank you. Those are actually my 5 other. I had like 15 words, but those are the other 5 words that I had. So my second question is kind of tied into my first one, where I mentioned 5 words. So something that I thought was very interesting with this show is that because Sasha is biracial, there is that she is having an identity crisis where she feels like she doesn't fit in amongst her family, which is just her mom, her stepdad, and her stepsister, which are white. And then as she starts to spiral, she becomes more surrounded by white people. Or if there is other people of color, they're not really people of color who are supportive of her. But then at the end, like, she does find her community, and I thought it was really interesting that she finds community and acceptance and love and forgiveness, and she's able to find forgiveness for herself through her connections to Black people. It's kind of like she starts one arc kind of lost amongst non-Black people, and then she finds herself amongst Black people, and she finds solidarity as well as people who inspire and support her art. Was that intentional in when you crafted the story, and then especially when you started to do casting for the show? Like, was that your intention, or is that just something that happened organically?
I guess it's interesting. Yeah, I think it happened more organically, in the sense that I really knew I wanted to kind of tell this story of like somebody like Sasha in a family where she almost feels like an alien in her own family. I was quite fortunate to, have siblings who looked like me and very connected to my Jamaican heritage and things. And I have biracial friends who grown up quite differently, like not in London, maybe surrounded by white people, and definitely seem to have that kind of identity crisis, not really knowing their Black culture, or even Black family members, and I think their experience is so different to mine. And I really wanted to look into that. But I mean, she's always been close to Melrose, the woman who's in the church, a friend of her grandmother's. So I think that's been her godmother figure, so she's not kind of a new character. But I think what she serves her role importantly is to show that even in her own mother doesn't really try to understand her and give her grace and kind of help her in this situation, even in the last. Whereas this woman who is like a mother figure and, is her ex-boyfriend's next door neighbor, is the person to reach out and actually say, hang on a minute. And I think that's maybe more of a commentary on just how you maybe can't always find family at home, or, it's about the community that surrounds a child, and like the collectivism of, like I was talking earlier about, young teenage girls then having sex with older boys. And it's like, it's a community kind of issue, actually, because of how we're like viewing it. And I think that was what I more was interested in, like having somebody like Melrose who's connected to a church and who feels that sense of community in a way that her own mother can't or won't, and kind of really has probably ignored her identity in the sense of like how it must feel like being the only, you know, Black person in a family, you know?
Yeah, I completely agree. And I thought it was really important that Melrose was also the one who to identify that what happened to her was abuse and it was rape. And she was like, you're a child. So I love that you had a Black woman be the person to give her that kind of validation.
100%. And I think it's, you know, that's probably me imbuing my own heritage or culture or whatever, like in my life, and thinking about how I've been supported by Black women. It is probably me going, like, if anyone was really going to listen to Sasha and actually be there for her and take the time, it's going to be somebody like Melrose who is going to offer that ear to her. So I loved Melrose as a character, like really, really did.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.